Hello, fifth grade. Today's math lesson is lesson 4.8, and it is over multiplying decimals greater than 1. This is going to be a lot of the same thing. We are just multiplying decimals. They're just going to have some bigger numbers in there today, but it's just like normal. The only difference that we're going to see is that we also need to review these properties of multiplication. These three things are things that we've actually talked about before, way back in Unit 2, but we probably better review them because it has been a while. So let's start by talking about these. We'll do some examples, and then we'll also review just multiplying with our decimals because your assignment will include both of those things. These three properties, you have to know about those, and then you'll also be multiplying decimals. Let's start up here with the commutative property. I have written a little hint over here for you. The commutative property tells me that I can change the order when I'm multiplying numbers. So, for example, 5 times 3 is the same or equal to 3 times 5. So you'll notice all I did was I changed the order, but my answer would be 15 on either side. Another example would be like 2 times 16 is the same as 16 times 2. So that commutative property just tells me I can switch the order, I can change the order of the numbers in my problem. The next property is the associative property, and my little hint over here tells me that that means I can change the groups. I can change around my groupings. So let's do an example here. If I have 2 times 4 times 6, and I put parentheses around the 2 times 4, that would be the exact same or equal to if I did 2 times 4 times 6 and put my groupings around the 4 and the 6 instead. So all I've done is I've changed the group of my parentheses because it might make it easier if I do it like this than if I do it like this. Or some of you might prefer to do it like this than like this. It just means that I can change where those parentheses are at. So another example would be something like 3 times 7 times 9. I could group the 3 and the 7. Or it would be the exact same thing if I did 3 times 7 times 9 and changed my grouping to the 7 times 9. I can change my groups anytime that I want to. That's what the associative property says. The third one is a little bit trickier than the other two. It is called the distributive property, and my little hint says I can share the outside with the inside or take the inside to the outside. Now that sounds confusing, so let's look at what that means. Let's say I had 7 times 3 plus 5. The distributive property tells me that I can share the outside with the insides. So in order to do that, I would share the 7 with my first number. So I would do 7 times 3. And then I would share the 7 with my other number, and I would do 7 times 5. And then I would just add those together since it's addition right here. So I took that outside number and I shared it with both of the inside numbers. That's what distributive means. Or I might see it backwards. So it might look something like 4 times 2 plus 4 times 9. And I might want to take the inside to the outside. So what number is common in both of these groups? Well, the 4 is the same in both. So I could take the 4 out, and whatever numbers are left, I could just leave them on the inside together. The 2 plus the 9. So I can do it either way. I can share the outside with the insides, or I can take the insides and move it to the outside. This one's a little bit trickier because there's a lot going on. Now, let's practice identifying these properties and using them with our examples down here. Now, in order to do this, it says complete the equation and name the property used. So they're going to give me one side equal to the other side. I have to first fill in the blank with what should go here, and then decide which property tells me that I can do that. So I like to cover up after the equal sign. I see 40 times 50 times 1.13. And I notice that the 50 and the 1.13 is in parentheses. Now I'm going to look at the other side, and I see 40 times 50 times something. Well, first, what number would have to go here for this side to match this side? The 1.13. That's the only number that they haven't used on this side. So that's what has to go in my blank. And then I have to decide which property they've used. So looking at this side compared to this side, have they changed the order of the numbers? Have they changed the grouping of the numbers? Or have they shared the outsides and the insides? Well, the order has stayed the same, but the parentheses are moved. So they have changed the groups, which would mean this is the associative. So I would just write associative right here, because that is the property that they have used. Really, these do not involve any math. It's all about using my eyes to look and see how they've changed from one side to the other, and then using my hints to figure out which one of these properties that is. So you really have to think and use your notes to help you figure these out. Let's try number 2. So again, I'm going to cover up behind the equal sign. 4.5 times 3.2. Simple enough. And on the other side, they have blank times 4.5. Well, what would need to go in that blank so that this side matches this side? Well, 3.2 is the only thing missing. So 3.2 would have to go on this side. And then I have to determine which property they are using. So looking here and here, what did they do? Did they change the order, change the groups, or share the outsides and insides? Well, if I look, all they did was swap the order, so that would be the commutative property. I would just write commutative. You do have to do these on your homework, so make sure that you're paying close attention to these examples so that you know how to do them. Number 3. First, I'm going to look at what comes in front. So they have 3.8 plus 4.2 in parentheses, and there's a 7 on the outside. And when I look at the back, that 7 has come on the inside of 2 parentheses. Well, first let's figure out what would have to go here. What would have to go in this blank so that this side matches what's happening here? Well, 3.8 is the only number they haven't used. So 3.8 would have to go in the blank. And then we have to decide, did they change the order? Did they change the groups? Or did they share the outsides with the insides? They have shared the outside with the inside. Look, this 7 was on the outside, and they moved it to the inside of this one and the inside of this one. So they have shared it in both, which would be the distributive. Okay, those are a little bit tricky because there's a lot going on. So hint, hint, if there's a lot going on, it doesn't look like they've just changed the groups or changed the order, it's probably the distributive property. Let's look at number 4. So we have this set of parentheses and this set of parentheses. Notice your numbers. And then back here, we only have one set of parentheses and this blank on the outside. What number is missing? What number would need to go out here? The 3.2, that's the only number that hasn't been used yet on this side, so it has to go here. And then we have to think, did they change the order? Did they change the groups? Or were they sharing the outsides and the insides? Again, there's a lot going on here. They didn't just change the order. They didn't just change the groups, so it must be sharing the outsides with the insides. They took this on the inside and they moved it to the outside. So that would mean that I need to write down distributive again, because there's a lot going on. They're sharing the outsides and the insides. That's the best way to tell if it's distributive. If it looks like there's a lot happening and they haven't just changed the order or just changed the groupings, it has to be distributive. All right, we have 2 more here. I'll try to keep it on the screen so you can see our options too. All right, looking at the front side, I have 0.98 times 2.6. And then if I look at the back, I have 2.6 times blank. What would have to go in my blank for those two to match? 0.98. That's the only thing that hasn't been used. And then we need to decide, did they change the order, change the groups, or share the outsides and insides? Well, all they did was flip them around, so they changed the order, which would mean that would be the commutative property. And last but not least, look down here. I have 80, 72, and 38. I notice the 72 and the 38 are together. Then I look back here, I have blank and 72 together and 38 here. First, what number would need to go in that blank? The 80, because that's the only one they didn't use yet. And then I have to decide, did they change the order? Did they change the groups? Or did they share the outsides and the insides? They just changed the groups. The parentheses moved to a different set of numbers, so that would be the associative property again. Now, as you work on your assignment, you're probably going to need these three options, so you might have to come back to the video and pause it so that you can really get a good look at those as you're working on your homework, or write them down in your notebook. Let's do 7, 8, 9, and 10 just as a good review. These are just multiplying decimals, so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. Remember, if there's any zeros up front, I can ignore those. So I'm going to cross him out. And now I'm just going to multiply like normal. 5 times 8 is 40, so put my 0, carry my 4. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 4 more would be 39. I'm done with my 5, so X him out. When I make X's, I have to make an O. And now I'm working with that 1. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 7 is 7. Add them up. That's a 0. That's a 7. That would be an 11. So 1, 1, 7, 0. Then remember, my last step is to go and count the numbers behind my decimals. So I have 1 here and 2 here. So 1, 2, 3. My decimal needs to go right there. 1.170. Remember, I have to count all the numbers that come behind the decimals. All right, let's move on to number 8. There's no zeros up front, so I'm just ready to start. 4 times 3 is 12. Put my 2, carry my 1. 4 times 4 is 16. 1 more is 17. X him out. I'm done with him. When I make X's, I have to make an O. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. Add them up. 2, that would be a 3. That would be a 10. So 1032. I've got to get that decimal in the right spot. So look back up at my problem. I have 1 behind this one and 1 behind this one. So 1, 2 means my decimal needs to go right there. 10.32 would be the correct answer. All right, next one, number 9. I have another 0 up front, so cross him out. Now we're ready to go. 8 times 3 is 24. Put my 4, carry my 2. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 2 more is 34. I'm done with my 8. X him out. When I make X's, I have to make an O. Now I'm working with the 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. Add them up. Let's see what we get here. 774 is what I got. I need to make sure my decimal goes in the right spot. So look back up at my problem. I have 1, 2 back here and 1 here, so a total of 3. So my decimal would actually need to go right here, and I need to add a 0 up front. I almost ran out of room. 0.774. Remember, however many numbers are behind the decimal point in your problem, that's how many numbers should be behind it when I get to my answer. Last one for number 10, we have a 0 up front. Don't forget we can cross those out, and that'll make it a lot easier for us because now we just have one digit to multiply with. 7 times 6 is 42, so put my 2, carry my 4. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 4 more is 18. I don't have any other numbers to multiply, so 182. Counting behind my decimal, I have 1, 2 numbers, so my decimal point would need to go right here. 1.82 would be my final answer for this one. That should be a quick review for you. Don't forget, if you need to have these for your homework, which you are going to need, you can pause the video here to let you look at those or copy them down in your notes. Good luck. You've got this.